Hey everyone, this is Elenbaas from Nightlight Astrology. Today we are going to continue reflecting on Jupiter's culmination in the sign of Gemini. This is coming off from a new moon that we've just had in Gemini, and we're going to run through all 12 whole sign horoscopes today as a way of focusing this reflection so that we can get a feel for what topics are being activated, not just now in this moon cycle, but also over the course of the past year as Jupiter's been transiting through that part of our charts. So, if you missed yesterday's talk on Jupiter in Gemini, you might want to pair that talk with today's. You don't necessarily have to watch them in order, but they are meant to go together. So be sure to check that out as well. So that's our agenda for today. Before we get into it, as always, remember to like and subscribe. I hope that this is a place for people to take their daily spiritual practice of astrology in, and that it's a meaningful place to study astrology in a spiritual context. If that's the case, please subscribe. It really helps us grow. Transcripts of any of these daily talks can be found on the website, which is nightlightastrology.com. A couple of promos before we get into content for the day. We have a couple of events coming up. A couple of them are free here. So the in-person events, if you go to that tab under the events drop-down menu, you'll see the Summer Solstice Gathering coming up June 21st in Minneapolis at the Grapevine Collective. That is located in the new city center in Minneapolis. So come join us. It's free. We just need to know you're coming so we know how much stuff to bring. RSVP. Hope to see you there. That'll be a nice way of taking in the solstice together. Go to Speaker Series. You'll see that June 7th, 8th, and 15th, we have free talks coming up from wonderful speakers where we pay really nicely because of the Kickstarter and then make them open and free for everyone. So that's another great series that comes through the generosity of your support for this channel. And you'll see these are great talks, great speakers. Some of them come out of our Nightlight programs and staff. Others are friends of the program. So check those out. They're free to register. You get the recording if you can't attend live. Go to Live Talks and you'll see my webinars per month for June and July. The next two are coming up, and you will see you can purchase May's on Jupiter Exalted in Cancer if you missed it. Uranus and Gemini, Trine, Pluto, and Aquarius is my June talk on the 19th. Register there. You get the recording for any of these if you can't make them live. And then finally, we have our first year course starting June 22nd. You can learn everything there is to know about the course is contained on this page. And then at the end of today's video, as every day during enrollment season, I have an informational video that's about 12 minutes long at the end that goes into absolutely everything you need to know about the program, what it includes, how it's organized, and how it's delivered. It is a course that you can take remotely and follow along with at your own pace, or you can attend the live webinars with live Q&As. We have a really lively discussion forum, breakout study sessions with tutors. It is a fantastic program. It really is my best work, I think, are these programs that I've developed. And we've been teaching them. This is coming up on our 30th program over 15 years, 2 per year. So it's a great course to study more astrology and deepen your relationship, or maybe even turn it into a practice for others. You'll find that need-based tuition assistance is there at the bottom along with the other payment options. So if you need a little help to make it happen, be sure to take advantage of that. We want to make sure that nobody's priced out. So if you're experiencing some financial limitations or constraints and you need a little bit more of a flexible pricing, or even if you're just dealing with a conversion rate that's high because you're living in another country, we try to make sure that people don't have to be wildly stressed. We want it to be an investment that reflects your budget, that we want people to live within their means. So that's a big part of our vision at Nightlight. Anyway, that's it for promotions for the day. Let's turn our attention now to the real-time clock, where we are going to refresh on the action in the sign of Gemini that's been taking place. So here you can see on the real-time clock that as of Wednesday, May 28th, that is today, the moon is just moving into its waxing crescent phase after the new moon in Gemini. We have Mercury coming through a cazimi with the sun in the next couple of days in Gemini, while Jupiter is also culminating in the final degrees of Gemini, changing signs into Cancer on June 9th. So what I have been looking at this week with this new moon in Gemini are the concluding thoughts and reflections of a year lived with Jupiter as our teacher in this mercurial sign. I think that yesterday, the goal of that talk was really to provide you with meditations and reflection points for the archetypal nature of Jupiter in Gemini. So go back to that and listen to it if you haven't yet, and put it alongside of today's horoscopes. What I want to do now is look at, you could take this horoscope in a couple of different ways. You could think about it as the concluding thoughts of Jupiter in Gemini. I think that's probably the best thing to do along with yesterday's reflection points. The other thing you could think about is the upcoming Cazimi. Let me just show you when that's going to happen so you have a clear sense of it. So that Cazimi comes through tomorrow, Thursday, May 29th, and is separating by Friday, May 30th. So we take it back to today, May 28th. Mercury's about 2 degrees away from the sun, and then take it forward tomorrow, and Mercury moves on to the same degree as the sun. Its Cazimi moment is a greatly empowered moment for Mercury. It's also in its own domicile. Pretty powerful flow of mercurial strength here that can translate in a lot of different ways. And again, a lot of that's going to depend on the whole sign house location in your birth chart. So you got the new moon in the whole sign house of Gemini in your chart. You've got a Mercury Cazimi. You've got a culminating Jupiter. So I think for those reasons, and not only that, but let's not forget that it's not just like a month or so before Uranus enters Gemini. So this place of Gemini has been very active over the past year, is very active in the new moon cycle, and is about to continue its activation with Uranus entering Gemini. Let me just take you forward to that moment. So you'll see that Uranus moves out of Taurus and into the sign of Gemini right around July 7th. So on that day, Venus will have just also moved into Gemini. We'll get a little Venus-Uranus combo dynamic in the sign of Gemini as well. All of this is just to say that this whole sign house is doing a lot right now. The whole sign house in your birth chart where Gemini is located, there's a lot of activity traveling through it. Now, transits aren't the only thing in the world. People have been making this point lately, and I think it's a good point. I've seen a number of astrologers sort of making the point. Maybe someone originally said it, but I'm not sure which astrologer that was. They were like, in modern astrology, we place so much emphasis on transits, but those transits have to play into the context of things like time lords, perfection years, progressions, all sorts of other techniques that we use alongside of transits. And that's true. At the same time, there's nothing more basic and reliable in a way than tracking your transits. Tracking them not just by whole sign house, but also in terms of what they're aspecting in your natal chart. That may be a little bit more advanced than some of you are ready for or used to. But for those of you who are doing that, you know very well that these transits may not be very much compared to what Pluto's doing to your sun right now, or something like that. Anyway, all of this is just to say that I still think, regardless, there's a strong emphasis on the house of Gemini that we ought to focus on for now. So today, let's take a look at Jupiter's final thoughts in Gemini. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put Aries on the ascendant, and I'm going to give you some just some thoughts about. Here we go. Let me get Aries up there. And now I'm going to eliminate everything from our perspective except for the Sun, Mercury, and Jupiter. Just kind of get a picture of those three. Actually, you know what I'll do? Here's what I'll do. I will put the moon back in. And if I could... Oh, geez. Sorry, guys. Give me this. Okay, there we go. Now I'm going to add the moon back in, actually, and pull it back to the new moon earlier this week. That'll be kind of just fun to see that on the screen as well. So the new moon was on Monday. We talked about that at the start of the week a little bit. So yeah, pull it back. Here we go. So you could think again about this from several different standpoints. A new moon in Gemini, an upcoming Mercury Cazimi over the weekend coming up here in Gemini, Jupiter culminating in Gemini. Any of those things are applicable. Now, Jupiter's been in that sign of Gemini since last June. So you've had a full year of Jupiter working through Gemini. If you are an Aries rising, now you could listen to this for sun or rising, but I recommend your rising sign. You've had this energy in your third house. And the third house is a house that is related to the immediate and everyday environment of life. It is culture, it is village, it is neighborhood, it is siblings and peers. And so on that level, we might think about changes that have been happening in any of those immediate peer or sibling relationship dynamics, or what you've been learning within those relationships, or how things have been changing in terms of the everyday environment that you live in. I like to think about the third house like the fish bowl or the fish tank that we live in. And what is that ecosystem look like for you, and how has it grown or changed or shifted in the past year? But also, The third house is a place that speaks to the development of skills and abilities. In Indian astrology, it's a fairly competitive house that has to do with the formation of desires and impulses and what we do to satisfy those things psychologically, and also how we try to develop skills, abilities, talents that make us feel as though we're unique or we stand out relative to other people. It's a pretty natural thing to say, how am I different? How am I unique? And how do I shape or form that uniqueness through the cultivation of skills, abilities, intelligence, etc.? So a busy third house for Aries in the past year and in this moon cycle, suggesting that some of those topics could be really important. What are you learning? What skills are you cultivating? And what are you doing with emotional impulses that you have? Very important to look at those things. The third house is called the joy of the moon in Hellenistic astrology as well. So dealing with the emotional atmosphere of everyday life and the emotional atmosphere of your mind is also a traditional part of our understanding of the third house. All right, so we move to Taurus and we see this culmination of Jupiter in the second house, the place associated with money and resources. It's an Arta house that's connected to material security, and beyond that, some measure of wealth, comfort, ease, or enjoyment in the material realm. Those things are built in the second house through cultivation, effort, the development of skills, resources, and so forth. And so how has your relationship to money changed in the past year? What new skills have you learned? What have you been building? How have you been learning about the process of building anything that you want to have as a resource, whether it's your health or your body, which are very material things that the second house speaks to. Things like food and diet belong to the second house, but also anything that you've had to cultivate as a new skill or resource, or new counselors or advisors or people who are meant to be, like coaches or resources for you personally. So looking at all of that kind of stuff in the second house for Tauruses, as well as just, things surrounding money, finances, and business in general. Now, with Gemini on the ascendant, the process has been quite personal. So we think about the process of individuation in the first house, becoming what I am inside, which in a way, it's always there. It's not. It's almost not something we become as much as it is something we get in touch with. What has the process of your own personal learning, personal evolution with respect to body and self-care and health and identity been like over the past year? How are some things culminating, or what lessons or insights are integrating right now as Jupiter finishes its work in your first house? I would look at this as pretty existential, psychological, personal, clarifying who you are, what you want, what your talents or abilities might be, what direction you want to go in life, because you're getting a clearer sense of, who you are and maybe who you aren't. Right. Well, with Cancers, we put all of these planets into the 12th house, and I can't help but think about the process of starting to uncover or see things that you have been blind to. What we typically get in the 12th house is some access with Jupiter to our own shortcomings, and the faith and resilience and understanding and even the consciousness, so to speak, that can illuminate places that have been hidden or in a blind spot for us. So for Cancers, I wonder, as Jupiter's culminating, what patterns do you have a really great understanding of that maybe over the past year, you didn't have as much of an understanding of, but slowly you've come to see more clearly? That might be people or places or influences that have been really healthy or unhealthy that you're just becoming more aware of, patterns within yourself that undermine you versus support you, or those powerful teachers that put you in touch with dimensions of the collective unconscious, dimensions of life that are important to you personally, but exist somewhere collectively. What trends, themes, or almost like artifacts of the unconscious on a collective level have been speaking to you over the past year? That could also be a real theme for Cancers. For Cancers, obviously you got Jupiter coming into your first house too. So it's a year where what's been happening in the unconscious is about to translate into the space of a much more conscious house where integration with awareness is a much easier theme. So think about that. We keep going and we put Leo on the ascendant, and we see this culminating Jupiter with the new moon, the upcoming Cazimi in the 11th house. This is a place where we realize and get to taste some level of satisfaction with respect to our dreams, hopes, wishes, aspirations, or we find help or support from allies and benefactors toward the realization of the things we long for, desire, usually with some kind of larger social or professional dimension at play. And so over the past year, what things have you achieved? What dreams have you realized? What aspirations have clearly formed and are becoming very important as new long-term goals or dreams? And what kind of people or groups or communities are most supportive of your happiness and your ambitions in life? What allies have you made? What allies have changed or shifted? What groups or communities have changed or shifted? So you think about that for Leos. For Virgos, we're placing this in your 10th house, which is the place of your career. So we're thinking about the development over the past year of things like vocation. Again, an Arta house, material security at the basic level, moving upward to things like accomplishment and wealth and even prestige or some degree of mastery or power or influence in the world. And then also, the enjoyment that comes with being successful, a big part of the 10th house. Usually translated into things that are materially enjoyable or supportive. So it's been a year where maybe for Virgos, there's been a building or development of some of those themes. Maybe you feel proud of some accomplishments you've made, or maybe there's been a lot of irons in the fire. That'd be pretty standard for Jupiter and Gemini in the 10th. And maybe you're about to step out of a phase that's just been really, really busy, but productive. Maybe the busyness will shift a little bit after this cycle. I could also see things with respect to, mastery and demonstration of mastery, greater responsibility, and achievements, or even changes with respect to your public-facing identity or your professional direction and purpose. Maybe there's been a lot of expansion or clarification in the past year. And if not, then there might be in these last weeks some clarification of where things are heading. Go to Libras, and we have this Gemini energy in the 9th house, which is a place of higher mindedness, of teachers, gurus, long journeys or pilgrimages, spirituality, morality, virtue, philosophy, places of higher learning, and the teachers and wisdom traditions associated with those places. It's the courts of law and the higher laws of the universe and the study of them. Even like astrology would be a part of the 9th. So how has your faith and understanding or philosophy been evolving or changing? What questions, doubts, inquiries, skeptical investigations have you taken up in the past year? And what have you learned from those? And also, how has the process of learning, education, teachers, and if you're a teacher, then the process of teaching, how has that played a role in your personal and spiritual evolution in the past year? What beliefs have clarified themselves as incredibly important for you in the past year? So those things are to be considered right now for Libras as Jupiter's kind of finishing up in that house for you. Right, for Scorpios, we move this into the 8th house, a really interesting place to reflect on, as it is a place of debts and exchanges karmically. It's a kind of place of soul contracts and karmic contracts, whatever we want to call them. And the kinds of things that we get and give in exchange with people, and the attachments that are formed, both healthy and unhealthy, that eventually at some point will always have to be relinquished. Even the best ones will have to be relinquished, including the attachment that we have to our body, which is the most kind of fundamental karmic contract that we all have. We will have to give this body up at some point. So what attachments are you being asked to let go of? What has the process of learning and growth, spiritual wisdom, been around give and take in relationships? What have you given? What have you needed? What has been given in relation to what you give? Have things been balanced in that way? What are the most tremendous blessings or benefits you have gotten from other people? What have the hard attachments that you've had to let go of? What have the attachments been that you've had to release or let go of? I'm sure that can't always be easy. That's an 8th house process for sure. So insight, wisdom, culminating experiences in the house of karmic contracts, attachments, and the relinquishment of attachments in this house, all important subjects for the Scorpios out there. Now, with Sagittarians, these transits, the culmination of Jupiter, the new moon in Gemini, the Mercury Cazimi coming up, all in your 7th house, place of marriage and relationships, the place where we seek fulfillment in other people, or where, as opposed to the 1st house, which is a place of birth and beginnings, the 7th house where the sun sets is a place of resolution and endings. So what things are you tying a bow around right now in your life? What processes, relationships, jobs, anything whatsoever that is coming to a place of closure or resolution can be signified by things culminating through their transit in your 7th house. There's a lot of that right now for you, so it wouldn't be surprising to see you just kind of putting some bows around some things. Also, you think about the level of happiness, intimacy, satisfaction in your interpersonal relationships. Those are highlighted right now. And you could ask yourself, what have I learned about, intimacy, love, and closeness, and the happiness that on some level, I should be seeking or finding in relationships. I mean, we all, I think, deserve a certain amount of happiness in relationships. Hopefully we all have at least a few people in our lives where there's not only a feeling of safety, but of joy. So what have you been learning about all of that? With respect to Capricorns, we see this all taking place in the 6th house. So what has the process of hard work, sacrifice, labor, and effort looked like for you? Jupiter will bring a lot of blessings and benefits when you pour yourself into something and work really hard in the 6th house. Whatever sign it's in, Jupiter in the 6th house says, I'll lift you up. I'll give you a little bit of extra motivation or effort, or some silver linings, or some help when obstacles come. If you just keep going, keep plugging away, keep working on the things you love. Now, if you're working on things you don't love, I might be buffering you from the worst, but that will only be temporary. So, make sure that, as always with 6th house transits, you're asking yourself the question, is this worth it or not? Is this something that I'm passionate about, that is worth some measure of sacrifice? There's some sacrifices required for all good things, I think. All right, I apologize. The power went out here all of a sudden in the middle of the recording, so you probably won't see that in the editing, but I just got totally thrown off. So I'm going to return now to, we're on Capricorn. Hoping I'm not messing this up. We were in the middle of Capricorn. So here we are again. If you are a Capricorn rising, as I was saying, there is a lot of emphasis on culminating lessons around work, labor, sacrifice, and the kind of success that comes when we persevere through things, or the wisdom that we gain that helps us to be, for example, healthier, or even better at dealing with hardships. Jupiter in the 6th house is great at disseminating those kinds of lessons over the course of a year. It's also great for learning and skill development, but the kind that usually requires a lot of work and effort. So you might be starting to reap some of the benefits of that kind of process if you're a Capricorn. All right, so for Aquarians, we are looking at the 5th house. And you know what? I better make sure that my audio is right. No, it wasn't. My audio switched. Everything is messed up. Okay, sorry guys. So Aquarius rising, we have the culminating lessons of Jupiter in Gemini in the 5th house, with the new moon in the 5th house, the Cazimi in the 5th house. This is a place that is associated with Dharma. In Indian astrology, that translates to that which is essential to us as beings, that we have to learn to live in accordance with. It's sort of like that cliche, be yourself. Well, being yourself is a tricky thing, it turns out. To be ourselves, we have to go through a process of getting in touch with what that is and coming to know and trust what that is. The 5th house says, you know what one of the big pieces of evidence is that you're living in touch with your Dharma? You should feel some level of happiness. You should feel some level of joy that stems from being in touch with your essence. And it should extend into creative, playful, romantic connections with other beings, especially creative satisfaction and heart-to-heart exchanges with other beings is something that happens as a byproduct of being in touch with our Dharma. So this house and the lessons of the past year have been a lot for Aquarians about what makes you happy? What And what is it that's fundamental about you that you have to bring forth right now as a matter of your dharma, your happiness, your joy? And also, how does your joy connect you to the right kind of people that are somehow satisfying and harmonizing with you in your life? So think about those things for Aquarians. And then finally, Pisceans, the culminating wisdom of Jupiter in your fourth house, the place of home, family, and roots, the place of foundations, a place that connects us to our ancestry, but also private sphere of life, the internal sphere of life. The question of who am I inside, not publicly, but maybe when the lights are low and I'm in my living room, or I'm with friends, or I'm out to dinner with just one person. There's a deeper part of ourselves that we have to nurture that isn't as public or demonstrative. It's not as connected to a social persona. Cultivating that part of yourself, or really looking at the light and dark that exists within that part of yourself. Maybe those things have been part of the transit of Jupiter and Gemini over your past year, but also just growing your family, growing the home, growing good things, positive things within the space of your living environment, lessons provided around home, family, and ancestral karma, growth around things like land and property, and the building or the sense of life being its direction and purpose having been about that space somehow. So those are the things that I watch for, given the emphasis on the fourth house for Pisces folks right now. Again, I apologize. Today was pretty weirdly choppy on my end with the tech side of things. I take that from the fact that we had some storms rolling through and seemed to have knocked out the power right in the middle of recording this. But then I popped in and I'm not sure exactly when that occurred. So again, if there's a little bit of choppiness, I do apologize. Anyway, stick around. After I log off, you're going to hear more about our upcoming year one program. This program is, in my humble opinion, it is my best work. It encapsulates everything I know about how to cultivate a divinatory practice with ancient astrology. But it includes, I like to think that it includes the archetypal, psychological, modern sensibilities that the past 100 years of astrology have given us. It sort of marries it to that ancient traditional practice. So if that sounds appealing to you, stick around to hear more about it. I hope you guys are having a good day. Remember, Thursday and Friday, we are going to be having the astrology of June and horoscopes for June. So you got a lot of really good content still to come here. And look forward to hanging out with you guys the next couple of days as well. All right, take it easy, everyone. Bye. Hey, everyone. Thanks for sticking around. I'm excited to tell you about our upcoming program, Ancient Astrology for the Modern Mystic. It is our first-year course in Hellenistic astrology that begins at the end of June. June 22nd is our starting date. I'm going to take you over to the course page to tell you more about the program and what you will learn while you are in it. So here we go over to the Nightlight Astrology website. You can find this at nightlightastrology.com. Click on the courses tab, go to the first year course. Now, this program is ideal for people who maybe have a little bit of background already in astrology. Maybe you've done some studying on your own independently, taken some courses or webinars and workshops, but you're looking to deepen your understanding of astrology. And maybe Hellenistic astrology in particular has been calling to you. I'll tell you more about what Hellenistic astrology is in a minute, but on the first year course page, you're going to find everything that the course includes. I want to make the structure of the course clear first. And then at the end, I'm going to tell you 5 reasons that I think anyone might have for studying astrology. And you can see if you check any of those boxes. First of all, there are 30 classes on the year. It's just a little under a year-long program with 30 webinars. Every webinar is 2 to 3 hours long, including a lively Q&A and conversational section after we finish our lesson for the day. Each of those lessons I lead personally through live webinars, so you can attend those live. If you want to follow along at your own pace in your own time on your own schedule, you can always look at the recordings and take those in. And I'm going to show you what the class page looks like so you can see how you can interact with the course as uniquely and creatively as you want to. But you can either attend the live webinars or listen to the recordings or audio or video. In between major units of study within those 30 classes, we have separate classes outside of the 30 classes that are essentially tutoring sessions led by our staff, our course directors. We have 3 of them for our first year program, 3 tutors that help me guide every single class you're in and lead study sessions, and are also staffing an interactive group forum discussion where you can ask questions, look at charts, practice what you're learning with all of your classmates and with tutors there to help you. They'll always answer questions within a business day. So it's a really well-staffed, well-structured program. In between those major units of study and the breakout sessions, we also have guest speakers that come in throughout the year that you get free access to. The recordings are archived for you in your class folders. So you're getting people within our curriculum. You're also getting to visit with some astrologers who are outside of the Nightlight School, but we really admire their work, and so we bring them in. You also have a ton of bonus material. With every lesson, we have recommended quizzes, study guides, optional reading. And that allows people who are really, really, intense, deep, like studious types to go as far as you want to with the material, while other people who are maybe, content to take things in at, just kind of taking in the classes, that's there for you too. So you can kind of go as deeply as you want to. The class, if as the year goes on, goes through major units of study in ancient Hellenistic astrology. So if you're not familiar with ancient Hellenistic astrology, this is the earliest form of horoscopic astrology. This is where the astrology that you've probably learned today comes from originally. And that makes some of its features unique. Like, for example, ancient astrologers utilized whole sign houses. We study why they used whole sign houses, how they used them, and we study the why behind really everything: houses, signs, planets, aspects, dignities, essential and accidental dignities, delineation approaches. How do you read and predict within a natal chart? All of those theoretical areas of astrology, we not only learn how to do, but we learn the why behind it. And this is what I think people find most empowering about the course, is that ancient astrology really helps to give you the rationale for everything so that you have the insight available to go off script. What I mean by that is, like, let's say you're learning about a sign, Aries or Taurus or a Gemini, something like that. Ancient astrology won't just give you a list of the adjectives or keywords or descriptions of, say, a sign or a planet. It will give you an underlying philosophical explanation that then allows you to extrapolate from it the kinds of lists that you read in textbooks, which means you'll have an understanding of why everything on a list in a textbook is there in the first place. And you'll also have the insight and creativity available to add things to the list that are a part of your own unique intuition and contribution to astrology. And this is what ancient astrologers wanted students of astrology to learn: the why behind everything. So this is a class where, even though you're seeing things like planet signs, houses, dignities, aspects, and you're like, oh, I've already learned about those things. Not if you haven't studied Hellenistic astrology. I don't mean to sound condescending, but like, truly, most people's experience coming through this program is, wow, I had no idea all that I didn't know about the roots of everything that I've understood thus far about astrology. So it really is about digging into the philosophical core of why we do everything. And then you have greater intuitive and creative capacity as an astrological craftsman or craftswoman. So anyway, that's a brief explanation of why I think Hellenistic astrology is important. Not to mention that ancient astrology was really focused on our ability to accurately describe and predict things in the realm of karma, fate, and destiny, whereas modern astrology's hallmark and strength is psychological depth. And so when you put the two together in our program, which is why it's called Ancient Astrology for the Modern Mystic, I think you have something really special. So on that note, you can see everything that we cover here. So there's a video with some of our alumni you can watch. Everything is there on the page. Now, there are 5 reasons that I want to touch on briefly before I tell you about your payment options and need-based tuition. These are 5 reasons to study astrology that if you mark any of these boxes, especially if you mark several of them, then I think it's a good indication that you might be ideal for this program, might be an ideal fit. So the first one is, if you find that astrology has become a part of your daily, weekly, monthly, yearly spiritual practice, it is a part of how you lead an inner life, then there is nothing more empowering than deepening your connection to that language, because that puts you more in the driver's seat. It's always good to have astrologers that you rely on, teachers that you listen to, get a little objective perspective, especially when you're looking at your own chart through a reading. But there's really nothing more empowering than learning to speak the language at a deeper level for yourself. And if that calls to you, if you want to understand things and be able to speak more confidently and clearly about this sacred language that you love, and this is a great reason to take a structured program. Number two is that you feel called to read charts for people. And look, not everyone who takes our programs is on a professional track, but we have 4 years worth of professional training programs at Nightlight that will prepare you to read professionally for others if that's the path that you're on. Maybe you don't even know if you're on that path. That's fine too. Many people take our programs just for the sake of their own personal enrichment. And again, to be kind of more in the driver's seat with respect to your astrological journey. You have more of an understanding. You can be more confident in reading symbols and experiencing transits with your own understanding that you've cultivated. But sometimes people want to read for other people. This will definitely set you up to do that. We have a certification track where you can take exams at the end of every year. They're optional. You don't have to if you're not on that level of interest. Number three, you have done a lot of self-study. You've heard things from here and there, but you're looking to bring it all together. It is overwhelming to study astrology on your own. So if you want organization, structure, and coherence, what you're getting in this program is going on 15 years of training astrologers, 15 years of developing curriculum that has in mind the overwhelm that many people experience. And this program is structured year 1, year 2, year 3, however far you want to go with our curriculum, to give you an organized, structured, coherent way of understanding the history and language of astrology from both ancient times to modern times in all of the vastness that the field includes. And also, as we go, we want to give you the confidence that you are a part now of an astrological lineage. Astrology has always been practitioner-based. Coming through Nightlight, you are going to have the opportunity to feel aligned with a lineage. If you like my work, if you feel aligned with the way I speak the language, then this might be a good reason to come study with us. Now, if you're seeking the why behind things, if you're like, yeah, that's interesting, I get it, I understand, but why? Why signs? What's the difference between a sign and a house? Why do they ever come up with a sign and a house? What's the distinction philosophically? Why does Mars represent this? Why does Mars in this sign represent that? If you are someone who feels empowered by understanding the why behind things, you are going to love this program, because that's how I am as a teacher. That's how I am as a person. And that's what this program is really all about. Number 5, you are looking for astrological community. Look, I think Nightlight is unique in terms of the kind of warmth, acceptance, safety, and inclusiveness that our community includes intellectually, spiritually. We are really pride ourselves on being a peaceful kind of family. I'm a Cancer, right? So it's kind of a family-oriented environment. So anyway, I will end it there. If you check any of those boxes, you may want to consider studying with us. Now, I'm going to take you over to 2 things. I want to show you the dashboard. So here is the Thinkific page. You're going to join this. And on your dashboard, you're going to find any courses that you've enrolled in at Nightlight. And there are many, so you may end up in being involved in multiple courses. And you'll find that they're all there on your dashboard. Click on one of them and it will take you in. You're going to find that on the left-hand side, there's orientation instructions, course information, class links, and calendar, all the technical stuff you need to know when you join the course. And then you're going to find that when you go through the lessons, that the lesson includes the video, the audio, the slides, the transcripts, the Q&A box text if you couldn't make it live and see what people were talking about, flashcards, homework, a bonus PDF with all sorts of additional recommended reading, bonus videos, additional video links for bonus material. So every single time that you want to visit something within the course, everything is nicely organized. So you can see here, I'm going to pause this before it starts going, but you can embed the video right there. It's embedded and you can watch it. And then if you wanted to, you could also, right here, you could also download the video and watch it on your own device. And that's same for the audio as well. And then as you go, you'll see all of the lessons are laid out. The study sessions are also recorded if you can't make those live. So everything is nicely arranged on the website for you. And that makes it a course that if you wanted to take 3 years to accomplish, you could take 3 years to accomplish. If you want to take it for the sake of getting certified, you have the full year plus an additional year to take the exam. So, 2 years total that we give people if you're on a professional track. But most people complete the program in a year. And a lot of people, over 50% of our students, go on to our year 2 and then our year 3 and horary programs as well. Now, final thing I'm going to show you is right here. You're going to find Here is the enrollment options at the bottom of the first year course page. Again, this is at nightlightastrology.com, and you're going to click on the first year course, go to the bottom. The early bird payment saves you several $100s off the cost of the course. That's available till May 15th. Early bird installment plan saves you on the installment plan, regular cost of the course. That's also only available until May 15th. And then need-based tuition. All of our programs include a need-based option where we give you a sliding scale and we say, you pick your monthly tuition number within this sliding scale, which is greatly reduced off the normal tuition price. That is for people who are on a fixed or limited income, receiving disabilities, single mom, whatever the case might be. We want to make sure that nobody's priced out of studying astrology. So you don't have to feel any shame. If that is you, if you need help, if you want to take this, but you need to make it work within a tight budget, we get it. Times are tough right now. We don't think people should be priced out of studying a sacred subject like astrology. So we've been offering need-based pricing for 15 years. Nightlight is a donation-based school. It started that way. We have a sliding scale, so it's kind of like donation. You get to choose your rate anyhow. So if that's something that will help you, please use it. Thank you for listening to this. I hope it gave you a really deep and comprehensive introduction to what the course is all about and why you might find it exciting to come study with us starting at the end of June. So any questions you have about the program as you're visiting the course, email us, info@nightlightastrology.com. We'll be glad to talk about anything that you have questions about. We are here and we have a wonderful staff of people at Nightlight who will be a part of your learning experience and are all glad to help you. All right, that's it. We'll see you again later. Bye.